Hi, Alan. How are you, Mr. Alange?
How are you? How was your day?
Good.
How was your day? Good?
Good.
Good.
Busy, but okay.
Good.
You're growing your beard again, Alan?
No, I don't know. I just did shave for a couple of days,
Oh,
Yeah.
like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, no. If I don't have to go anyplace, I don't shave.
Yeah, I also shave every couple of days.
Okay.
Hi, Ernie.
Hi, Mario. Okay,
What did you do with your hair?
say
He looks
again.
like a Mohican. He looks like a Mohican.
Not a Mohican, a Mohawk Latino.
Mohawk. Okay.
This is the wind, I guess. So we're on Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Gimel. The Gemara proves that when Aaron HaKohen died, Sichon was still alive. Dichsiv, I did. It says, Vayishma Knani Melech Arad. After the death of Aaron HaKohen, the Parsha in Parshas Chukas says that the Canaanite king named Arad heard, and then he came and he did battle. Mashmua Shama, what did he hear? Rashi quotes this Gemara there in Chukas. Shama Shemei Saron. The reason that Amalek came to battle Klal Yisrael at that time is because they had heard that Aaron died. Why? Because Nistalko Anonei Kavod. The Anonei Kavod were present because of Aaron HaKohen. And after his death, they went away. Just like the Be'er was there because of the schus of Miriam. And that's why after Miriam's death, all of a sudden, they are clamoring for water. And the Parsha of Mei Meriva shows up. Because just like after the death of Aaron, there's no Anani HaKavod, after the death of Miriam, there was no Be'er. So once the Canaanites saw that there was no Anani HaKavod sovereign, Yisrael, well, the Anani HaKavod was what was protecting Klal Yisrael from their external enemies. Now that they saw that there was no more Anani HaKavod, they felt that now is the right time propitiously to attack Klal Hainu dichsiv, vayiru kol ha'eda ki gava Aharon. The pashut pshat of that pasuk is that all of Klal Yisrael saw that Aaron had died. V'amar vavo, al tikra vayiru elo vayera'u. Vayero means they were now allowed to be seen, like see and be seen. To the Reish Lakish. The Amar Reish Lakish, ki, the Hebrew word ki, as in ki gava Aaron, mishamesh ba'arba lashonos, can be used in 4 different ways. Like if, dilma, perhaps, ella, rather, daha, meaning that is. That means vayru kol ha'eda ki, that gava Aaron, and that's in that context it's used as daha. Rashi has a very nice discussion under the Dibra Maschul Kideresh Lakish as to every example of ki throughout the Torah, where he shows us how it's used as either dilma, ella, or daha. So the Gemara says, midami. What does that have to do with Sichon, says the Gemara? Hasam Knan hacha Sichon. Here you tell me, Vayishma Knani Melech Arad. Sichon was Melech HaEmori. What kind of proof is that this has anything to do with Sichon? So the Gemara says, Tana, who Sichon, who Arad, who Knan. It's the same person. Sichon Shedome L'Siach Bamidbar. He's called Sichon because he's like a sheep, Ayar ben Sus, or like a foal, small, like a pony, the son of a horse. Canaan al Shem Malchuso. Canaan was the people he ruled. Umashmo, Arad Shmo, his name was Arad. Ikedi Amri say no. Arad Shadomala Arod Bamid. Arod is like a type of donkey. Knan, Al Shem Malchuso. That's his people he ruled. Umashmo, Sichon Shmo. So it has to do with Sichon. Now, fine. The Gemara has reached a point where you prove to me that Av came before Shvat, right? Because Aaron died in Av, and then Moshe Rabbeinu started Sefer Dvarim in Shvat. But that's not a proof that Rosh Hashanah was Nisan. Maybe Rosh Hashanah is Iyar, because Av follows Iyar as well. I mean, what's your ultimate proof that the Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah? So the Gemara says it can't be Iyar. Lo salkadait. Dichsiv. Vayi b'chodesh harishon b'shana hashenis be'echad lachodesh hu kama mishkan. It says on the first month, in the second year, on the first day of the month, the Mishkan was erected, which is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the second year. And then, when Klal Yisrael picks itself up in Sefer Baloischa to move away from Har Sinai, right before the Parsha of the Misonanim, Ksiv, Vahi Bashana Shenis, Bachodesh Hasheni, we're still in the second year, though, in the second month, which is Iyar, where it says, Na lehe'onan me'al mishkan ha'edus. The onan lifted and Klal Yisrael started to move. Now, we were in Nisan, right, when it says, B'chodesh harishon b'shana shenis, the Korei Lashana Shenis. And now Koi Be'iyar. Now we're in the next month, the Koi Lashana Shenis, and they're still in the second year. Well, if Rosh Chodesh Iyar would be Rosh Hashanah, you'd be in the second year now. You'd be in the third year, right? Because the year would have flipped. So that's a proof that Rosh Chodesh Iyar is not Rosh Hashanah. Michlal, the Rosh Hashanah la v'yarhu. It's clear that Rosh Chodesh Iyar is not Rosh Hashanah. Ve'ema Rosh Hashanah Sivan. Well, maybe Rosh Hashanah Sivan. And Av and Shvat are in the same year as Siva, but not necessarily that Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the Rosh Chodesh. So Lo Sal Kedaita. That doesn't make sense either for it to be Rosh Chodesh Sivan. T'chsiv b'chodesh hashlishi. Let's say it's Bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. And if Rosh Chodesh Sivan triggered a new year, the Emisa b'chodesh hashlishi b'shana shenis. Let's say it's Bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. Should have said Meboilei. Okay, the Gemara accepts that. So we've proved that ER is not the Rosh Hashanah, and we proved that Sivan is not the Rosh Hashanah. Freit the Gemara ve'ema Tammuz ve'ema Av. Maybe Tammuz is, maybe Av is, maybe Adar. Maybe the month before Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah. So Elo Amar Abelazar mehacha from a following pasuk in Divrei Hayomim. Vayachel livnot b'chodesh hasheni. Shlomo HaMelech began to build the Beis HaMikdash in the second month. Basheni, we don't know what that means. Bishnas Arba L'Malchus, on the fourth year of his reign. What is this Basheni? Masheni. Isn't it Lav Sheni La Yerach Shemoni Bo L'Malchuso? It means the second month from when they start counting his reign, which is from Nisan. So that's what the Gemara wants to say. Maski Ravina ve'ema Sheni b'chodesh. Maybe it means the second day of the month. So Im Kain Sheni b'chodesh b'adei aviksiv. Then the Torah many times, Tanakh will write a certain day of the month. Here it didn't say that, so it must be not Sheni b'chodesh. And ve'ema b'sheni b'Shabbos. Maybe it meant Monday. It was referring to the day of the week. So the Gemara doesn't accept that. Chadad lo yashkachan sheni b'Shabbos t'chsiv. We never find anywhere in Tanakh where it refers to the day of a week. V'od meiki sheni basra l'sheni kamo. We compare the two times it uses sheni. Ma sheni kamo chodesh. Initially, we talked about the second month of Sheni Basra Chodesh. Okay, Tanya Kavos Rav Yochanan. There's a brisa to support the way Rav Yochanan is learning. How do we know that the Rosh Hashanah for kings is Nisan? Shenamar vayi b'shmonim shana v'arba mi'oshana l'tzeis b'Yisrael mi'Mitzrayim. Uksi vayal Aaron HaKohen al hor al pi Hashem. Uksi vayi barboim shana b'shtei chodesh Moshe Rabbeinu started talking. Uksiv achrei achoisoi es sichon, which places Av before Nisan. V'omer vayishma knani, that refers to that being sichon. V'omer vayiru kol ha'eda ki gava Aaron, sichon was still alive when Aaron died. That's because the Anon was lifted and now the Klal Yisrael could be seen. V'omer vayi b'chodesh harishon b'shana hashenis. Vayi b'shana hashenis b'chodesh hasheni, which refers to Shlomo HaMelech. So these are all the psukim. It's a mnemonic for us to remember how the Gemara got to this point. On Rav Chisda, that which we said, that we count the kings from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Lo Yishana L'Malchei Yisrael, Jewish kings. Aval L'Malchei Umas HaOlam, when it comes to non-Jewish kings, Tishrei Manina, we count then from Tishrei. And where do we see this? Shenema. Divrei Nechemia ben Chachalya. Ezra Nechemia. Vayiba Chodesh Kislev. In Chodesh Kislev, Shnas Esrim, in the 20th year. we'll see what the 20th year of what. Uksi vayiba chodesh Nisan, shnas esrim la'artach shasta. This is in, so chodesh Nisan, and yet it's not the 21st year. If Nisan is Rosh Hashanah for the non-Jewish kings, and Kislev was called the 20th year, well now, Nisan is after Kislev. So once Nisan comes, it should be the 21st year. Must be, the year doesn't change for the non-Jewish king until Tishrei. Midakoi beKislev, v'koi leishnas esri. V'koi b'Nisan, v'koi leishnas esri. Mechlad, Rosh Hashanah, lav Nisanu. It's clear that the Rosh Hashanah, which triggers a new year for the king, is not Nisan. Fine. Okay, when it says Vayi b'chodesh Nisan shnas esrim l'chartach shasta, we know that it's referring to the king, the Persian king Artashasta. But Elahai, the pasuk of Divrei Nechemia ben Chakaya Vayi b'chodesh Kislev shnas esrim, how do we know that that's referring to the shnas esrim of Artashasta? Dilma leminyan achroni. Maybe it's the 20th year from something else. Amar of Papa, shnas esrim l'glei rishon. So in both psukim, it uses the phraseology shnas esrim, the 20th year. And we learn ma'hasam la'artach shasta. The one pasuk, when it talks about shnas esrim, is referring to artach shasta. Avhacha la'artach shasta. So the other pasuk is also artach shasta. Umimai de ma'isa de Kislev kadim. Now, we still don't know whether what happened in Kislev was before Dilma Ma'isa de Nisan Kadim. We don't know what happened first. More says Lo Sakadai. No, I'll prove to you that the Ma'isa of Kislev happened first. The time. This is all a quote from Sefer Nehemiah. Dvorim she'amar Chanani leNehemiah beKislev. The things that Chanani said to Nehemiah Kislev, Amar Nehemiah leMelech b'Nisan. Nehemiah later on said it to Nisan, so it's very clear that the Ma'aseh of Kislev happened before Nisan. Dvorim she'amar Chanani leNehemiah beKislev shenemar. Divrei Nehemiah ben Chakaliah. Vayi b'chodesh Kislev shnas esrim. V'ani hayisi b'Shushan Abir, and I was in Shushan. Vayavo Chanani, echad ma'achai, who, one of my brothers, va'anoshim Yehuda, other members from Judea, ve'esh alem ala Yehudim ha'pleita shenisharu min hashevi v'Yerushalayim. I asked them, how are the Jews doing, the remnant who stayed behind in Yerushalayim? Vayomru li, they said to me, hanisharim asher nisharu min hashevi, Sham b'Medina b'ra gedola v'cherpa. They're in a very bad way. The choymas Yerushalayim foretzes. The walls of Yerushalayim have been broken. Ushareh nitztu boish, and its gates are fired. So this distressed Nehemiah. So Nehemiah arranged for an audience with Artashasta later on that year in Nisan. Amar Nehemiah melech b'Nisan. He related everything that Nehemiah had heard from his brethren in Kislev. He had a discussion with Melech Artashasta Nisan, Shenemar. Vayi b'chodesh Nisan shnas esrim la'Artashasta Melech. Yayin lefonav va'esa sayayin v'nala Melech. Nehemiah was the cup bearer for the king, and he brought him a cup of wine. V'lo yisi ra lefonav. And must be that Nehemiah looked like he was depressed. Why is your face showing depression? You're not sick. So Nehemiah said, It's ki imro alev. It's not, I'm not sick. I'm depressed. Va'ira harbim, and I'm afraid. Va'armala melech hamelech lo'olam yichya. I said to the king should live forever. Madua lo yeru panai. I shouldn't be depressed. Asher ha'ir beit kvarat avotai. My city, the home of my ancestors' tombs, Chareva, is destroyed. Ushare uklu va'esh, and its gates are destroyed in fire. Vayomer li hamelech al ma zatam vakesh v'espolel Elohei Shamayim. Fine, the Melech said, what do you request? What are you davening to your God for? Va'omar lamelech im alamelech tov. And I told the king that if the king saw right in it, and if I have been good as a servant to you, asher tishlacheni al Yehuda al ir kivros avoisai vevnena. Please send me to Yerushalayim, to the city of my ancestors' graves, and I will rebuild it. Vayomer li hamelech v'ashegal yosheves etzlo. I think it means the queen. Sitting with him. Ad matai yeh malcha. How long will your travels be? Umatai tashuv. And what will you come back? And the king saw that it was good to send me, and I gave him the time how long I'd be away. So this dialogue shows that the Maisa of Kislev happened before Maisa of Nisan. Now, Artaxerxes is a Persian king, the first one, who ruled from 464 BCE to 425 BCE. He was one of the children of Achashverosh, the Achashverosh of Megillah Esther. He ruled over the Persians for almost 40 years.
I thought Darius was his son. Didn't Darius give permission to build back the Beis HaMikdash?
Daryavesh Hasheni, and we're going to see that he has multiple names, just like.
So this is Daryavesh. Is the same person as this king, as Hanina, whatever his name is.
Daryavesh Hasheni, who was the child of Achashverosh and Esther Amalka.
So we're just using some different name for him here.
Correct.
Hanani. Okay.
No, not Hanani. Hanani was a Jew who came from Yerushalayim to talk to Nehemiah.
Okay, so we don't know this king's name.
Artaxerxes.
And that's another name for Daryavesh.
For Daryavesh Hasheni.
Okay.
It's a Daryavesh Harisha. Now, I will.
Yeah, but they don't know which way, if it's really Esther.
The Steinzal says that this Artaxerxes was the one who ruled Persia from 464 to 425. Now, gentlemen, you are aware that there are 166 years missing from Chazal's history. That is, according to Herodotus, who is the Greek historian that we have records from, there were 10 Persian kings before the Persian dynasty ended. Chazal list only 4 Persian kings. And also, from 586 BCE to 70 CE, gentlemen, how many years? 650 years. Yes. But Chazal say that Bayis Rishon stood for 410 years, and Bayis Sheni stood for 420 years. So there's 166 years missing in Chazal. Reb Shimon Schwab has a whole essay that he wrote 30 years ago about these missing 166 years. Okay? And one of the answers is that we are not in 5,782. We're actually 166 years later. We're now in 5,948, whatever. If you add 166 to where we are now, we're only 52 years before the 6,000th year, where Mashiach is supposed to come before 6,000 years. And we're only 52 years away from there. According to that understanding, that the reason why these 166 years are hidden is that people should not calculate the Kates. They should know exactly where we are in that 6,000 year period. Anyways, and that relates to these Persian kings, because there's 10 Persian kings listed by Herodotus and by general history, where Chazal only knows 4 of them, or mentions 4 of them. So attempting to say which king was, but Steinschall says that this Artaxerxes is the son of Achashverosh, who's mentioned in the Megillah. He was a weak king.
So Nehemiah must have been around at the time of the Purim story.
No, that's the
Why not? This is one generation later. He must have been a kid.
Well, he could have been a kid, or no, because listen, Kenny, the 586 BCE, and then 70 years later is 516 BCE.
No, the Purim story, Achashverosh got it messed up by 14 years or something like that?
He was too early, so that's what I'm saying.
So that's only another 14 years till we rebuilt the Beis HaMikdash.
When they say built the Beis HaMikdash, 14
And we
years.
know Darius is the one who gave the permission to
No,
do it.
No,
And
Koresh.
this is him.
No, Koresh did. 70 years.
But they say
seven-
that Koresh is Darius.
Hang on. 70 years after, it means 14 years after the Purim story. Remember, Achashverosh took out the Kalim because he
Right,
thought
but it
all
wasn't
over.
Achashverosh anymore. So that must have been his kid was ruling 14 years after him,
No, because the
after
person,
Purim.
the person who gave the permission is Koresh. And the Tanakh in Malachim Beis ends, Koresh makes an announcement, all the Jews can go back. And that's how the nace of the 70 years was fulfilled, because Yirmiyahu had predicted 70 years they're going to be able to come back. Now, even though Koresh gave them a permission, it failed. The Shomronim fought them, and there was a 30, 40-year period where no building of the Beis HaMikdash went on. So from 516 to like 480 BCE. Then Ezra and Nehemiah are sent by Daryavish Hasheni. By this time, Achashverosh's kid is ruling. This is after Koresh, where Daryavish Hasheni gives permission now to allow them to go back, and Ezra and Nehemiah actually show up, and they are Makadesh the Chatzeros, and they rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. Even though Koresh gave them the permission 40 years before, nothing happened. That's why this delegation from Judea came to Nehemiah and said, Nehemiah, Koresh gave us the permission, but nothing has happened. The Shomronim are fighting us and blah, blah, blah. So that's why Nehemiah has to appeal to this Artaxerxes, who we're going to say is Achashverosh and Esther's son, Daryavish Hasheni. Another name that he has is Artaxerxes.
So if he's older than 54, 55, he would have been alive at the time of the Megillah Esther.
Yeah, but you see, he ruled from 464 to 425. He ruled for 40 years. So he's not going to live. So he was younger. So remember, Achashverosh and Esther didn't have Daryavish Hasheni in the time of that son happened later on. She remained his queen. And maybe they had that child 10 or 20 years after the Purim story. So that fits. That fits. So Daryavish Hasheni is going to be around at this period of time. That's not a problem. And Ezra Nehemiah, but remember, Sefer Ezra Nehemiah is written a significant period of time after the Purim story. And there's no evidence that they were, now Mordechai, the Anshe Knesset, Mordechai is alive because the Anshe Knesset Sagdola that establishes Shmona Esrei and all that, it says Ezra was part of that, and Mordechai is still alive. So Mordechai may have lived a long time too. And it's not that they were all alive at the same time, maybe early on. Remember, Shimon HaTzadik,
He was the last.
Mishiore Anshe Knesset Agdola. Last Kenny, let's say there were 120 people. We know from Chazal that who did Shimon HaTzadik meet? He met Alexander the Great, right? He came out in the big day kahuna, and Alexander the Great comes to Palestine. He gets off his horse and he bows down to Shimon HaTzadik. Gentlemen, Alexander died 323 BCE. So you see
200 years later, 250 years later.
That doesn't fit. How could Shimon HaTzadik be alive for two, right? So this 166 missing year issue is a real issue to jive what the historians know. Remember, history in 800 BCE, 900 BCE, we have Tanakh. We don't have corroborative history. History, as we understand it, was started to be written by Herodotus 480 BCE in Athens, who wrote about the Peloponnesian Wars between Athens and Sparta, the 300, who Xerxes, the Persian king, 480 BCE, tries to attack Greece, and at Thermopylae, there's a narrow 300 Spartans prevent the whole army, and they were encircled, ambushed by a traitor. So Herodotus is a historian that begins to write histories. So then now at that period of time from 480 BC on, we have corroborative history where we know what else is going on in the world. Persia, Tanakh is not a history book. So you can read a lot about the Persian era. You can read about it in Encyclopedia Judaica. You can read it. There's a lot of very scholarly articles about trying to reconcile all that. But clearly, the historians have 10 Persian kings. Chazal have only 4. And then we have this 200-year period where Shimon HaTzadik is supposed to be part of the Anshe Knesset Gdola, but he meets Alexander the Great, which is 323 BCE, which is 200 years after all of this. Okay. So 8:02 p.m. Let me just finish the blot real quick. Well, okay. We let's finish here. Mosiv Rav Yosef, and we'll pick this up here tomorrow. Okay?
Yeah, sorry for diverting.
No. That was very good discussion. This is, it's mamish pshat in the Gemara that we need to understand. Okay.